evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program and actually produce it too. And I thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope that, as with other shows, you're going to be well informed through this program and enjoy it as well. Before I introduce my guest, I would like to take a few minutes with an opener that I wrote just before coming to the show. Here it goes. It is time to build a level of trust between the legislature and the people. There is too much decision-making at the state level that doesn't represent the wishes or the needs of the people. Ever-increasing property taxes are unsustainable, as we all know, and are driving Vermonters to greener pastures in other states where they feel they'll be able to afford to live. State control and distribution of community property taxes for education is not a fair process, in my view. When the town of Georgia in a recent year basically level funded the town's education budget, during the same year, the city of Burlington raised its education budget by approximately 12%, which meant that the town of Georgia and all of the other towns in the state had to pay for Burlington's huge spending increase for its schools. What is fair about that? And what about that type of state school funding system would encourage any town to sharpen its pencil to keep education costs under control? The answer? Nothing. That is like socialism, where it's easy to spend the other guy's money for your own purposes. It is time for a new, more fair education funding system in Vermont. Per pupil spending has escalated dramatically as student population has decreased by 30,000 students since 1995. The role of the legislature is to serve the people, not to be their master. Local control is important to the people of our communities, who know better what is in our best interest and the needs of our children. Leave the decision-making and control of our property taxes to state government, and you can count on higher taxes and more bureaucracy and control. Our children depend on us to use common sense to provide them with the best possible education, which is important, as we all know. We owe that to them. Taxpayers deserve to get the highest quality education for their investment. We won't see effective change in education until everyone comes to the table and has a voice to openly discuss the issues and the possibilities. Solutions will depend on communication and cooperation between parents, teachers, administrators, taxpayers, and students. We all want a top quality education for our children at reasonable cost and a classroom environment that is conducive to teaching and learning. The latest articles in the St. Albans Messenger about individualized learning, with teachers acting as advisors and resources while the children teach themselves, scares me. And I have to wonder how happy the educators are. It is time for a big discussion in our communities. That ends my opener. And with that, I am very happy to introduce to you, probably not a first-timer on this TV station by any stretch, Tim Smith, Mayor of the City of St. Albans.
Thank you, Linda.
And Executive Director of the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation.
Correct.
You're a busy guy.
I have been, yes. Yeah.
So, is there anything you want to say for an opener, or you just want me to ask you?
Let's jump right in and take it from there, Linda.
Okay, all right. Well, how about goals under either under the city or under the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation, or a combination of both? Excuse me.
Sure. Let me start with what I call my real job, the one that pays the bills, which is Executive Director of Franklin County Industrial Development. So the top issues that we have locally, and actually let me back up one second, and that is a lot of the watchers probably don't understand that over the last 2 years we have seen about $200 million worth of capital investment in Franklin County. There's been a major expansion of Ben & Jerry's, Barry Callebaut, Peerless Clothing, Vermont Precision Tools. You take the investment that the city's made in sidewalks, the construction of the hotel, the hospital, all that over the last 24 months is well over, exceeds $200 million.
Wow.
And that is in construction costs and investment in equipment. And as I tell people every place I go, all of those that I mentioned will be creating 50 jobs at least each. Each. Ben & Jerry's will create 50, Peerless, Barry Callebaut, and Vermont Precision Tools will all be creating jobs.
Well, we need jobs in Vermont, don't we?
Well, I would dare say not so much if we cannot fill them. That's a concern.
And that's a problem.
That's a concern that we have.
Yes.
So just going back to the construction aspect of it, $200 million for a county of 50,000 people with job creation. There would be hundreds of rural counties across the United States that would trade places with us in a heartbeat.
Okay.
We have excellent diversification in jobs. We have government jobs with Homeland Security, healthcare with the hospital and Notch, education jobs, manufacturing, retail, service industry. If there was a downfall to what is going on here, and that would be the price of milk that our farmers are receiving for their milk and their labor.
Yeah.
It's in my opinion, it's a travesty to see that kind of return on their investment. We have lost 66 farms in Vermont since the beginning of the year.
This year?
This year. So.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's it's difficult. Farmers are losing money every day based on the price of milk that they're receiving. I don't know the exact time frame, but today's price of milk is about the same as it was 15, 20 years ago. And it just it's just heartbreaking to see that kind of, no one has control over it. I say no one in the state has control of it. So it makes it very difficult, and the loss of farms is going to continue. So that's the downside. As I said, the upside is we've had $200 million in investment, job creation, and downtown St. Albans is doing well and looking good.
Yes.
I think that has influenced some decisions to in Swanton and Enosburg as well.
To upgrade
and try to
leading the charge.
Yep, try to make things happen. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of good things happening in both those communities. Georgia is looking at something in their sort of village area as well. So they're having those conversations. So that's great to see as well. So all in all, county is doing well. Our unemployment is about 3%.
In the county?
In the county.
Okay.
I have just on last Friday, Chip Sawyer from St. Albans City and I spoke to 3 history classes at BFA. They are having a discussion about progress and what the impacts of progress are. And the discussion that we had with them was that 45 years ago, a lot of people don't realize this, but our unemployment in the county was double digit.
Wow.
It was 12 to 14%. Our organization, Franklin County Industrial Development, was created 46 years ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, with the intent to have an impact on that double-digit unemployment.
So, what part does the Industrial Development Corporation play in stimulating or facilitating the growth opportunities, the new jobs and expansions?
Right.
And
so we do own buildings. So we have built or purchased buildings for the purpose of recruiting new business.
okay.
We have, so the St. Albans Town Industrial Park has been maxed out for some period of time. And we as an organization have purchased 93 acres adjacent to that park.
That's why the expansion that's coming with, is it Peerless? Who is expanding?
Peerless, they're all expanding, but they're expanding within their own property. We now have 93 acres and 8 lots where we can recruit new business.
I see.
I just had a conversation today with the potential for someone coming, a year down the road. They're just weighing their options, but now we have that opportunity to recruit new business based on the infrastructure that we have in place. If there's a downside to the infrastructure, piece of it is that we have no vacant buildings, which is a good problem, obviously, but it makes it difficult to bring new business into the region without having something to show them and to recruit them to the area. So there's one building, Med Associates used it down in the industrial park. That's about 24,000 square feet. That's on the market, but it's not ideal for manufacturing just because of the uses that it's had over the years, which was laboratory space and whatnot. And then, we have land, but not vacant buildings. And without a vacant, and the environment today is such that if you want to move your business or you want to expand your business and you want to come to St. Albans, you don't want to have to wait to get through the permitting, the construction process,
The cost,
the hiring, all that. It's a tough sell if you can tell them that you'll be in your building in 15 months. Well, we want to be in 6 months. Well. If we had vacant buildings, that would definitely be possible. But because we don't have vacant buildings, it is an unreasonable request.
Are you speaking, Tim, of vacant buildings in the downtown area or in the
more
industrial
in the
park?
parks, yeah. So more manufacturing scenario, warehousing, manufacturing, technology,
Industrial
uses for value-added manufacturing. So value-added is such where you take a raw material and you turn it into a product that is, cream from the co-op is used to make ice cream. That's probably the simplest example.
What about that property, is it Lower Newton? That's what is it called? Brownfield?
There's a brownfield there. It was a former Fonda container property. The city of St. Albans owns that. We had a meeting 6 weeks ago. There is still some extensive cleanup that has to happen on that site if we're going to attract new business. And
you want to make it safe for sure.
Want to make it safe for whatever the use is, whether it's public works garage or a manufacturing site or housing, whatever the situation is, we want to make sure that it's safe for whoever the users are. So there is some extensive costs related to it, and we're trying to work through that to try to reduce those costs so that we can make it a viable site, correct.
Well, when it comes to, I recall that not too long ago, the governor toured a number of businesses in the state and came to find that there were 6, I think he said, I could be mistaken, but perhaps 6 businesses that each one could hire between 20 and 100 people right now, and they could not find qualified people either they didn't have the skills or they were not drug-free or whatever, the parameters were. But how do we fix, I know probably not your area of expertise, but I'm just wondering how we can accommodate those businesses before they leave the state.
You're correct. I mean, it's definitely a challenge. I think there are some solutions that could be implemented, and one is that we need to do a better job of educating our high school kids throughout the county as to what the opportunities are. I don't think we do a very good job at that. We had for years Kathy Lavoie, and she'll be doing it for one more year, we received money from the state to do an internship program. And Kathy spent many hours in the schools reaching out to those students who have chosen for whatever reason not to apply for college or go to college. And she has, over those years, have placed 700 plus high school students in very good jobs.
Wow.
I'm not talking, working at McDonald's or Subway. I mean, she has educated them as to what's available. She has had in-depth conversations with them relative to what their interests are, what they want to do, what their goals are. And she has placed individuals in jobs that are well-paying, good benefits, education reimbursement. There's a number of things, and we have been fortunate, and these individuals have been long-lasting in the job that they have chosen.
And so that's working out well.
Working out well. But that money goes away in a year.
For recruiting and training.
Or the internship piece of it.
Yeah, oh dear. She's something else,
yeah.
Kathy.
She worked two jobs. She had two programs that made up her job. One was the internship program and one was the Workforce Investment Board. Both were 20-hour-a-week jobs. And as I have shared with many people, we got 40 hours a week out of her for the internship program. We got 40 hours a week out of her for the WIB program.
She's a worker.
So we got about 80 hours out of Kathy for two part-time jobs.
Did you find her a job now?
Yeah, actually she was recruited by the state. She's doing a contract position for the Department of Labor. So, so they knew what we had. And,
oh yeah, they're looking for the best, huh? Yeah. That's great. Well. I'm amazed that Franklin County's unemployment is under 3%. Have we, I'm trying to remember how many people have left the state.
I don't know how many have left. I know our population is stagnant, so it hasn't, there's been people moving into the state, but many moving out. So we just have no growth. We are fortunate, once again, from a selfish perspective. Franklin County is one of the three growing counties in population. It's us, Chittenden County, and Lamoille. So,
Lamoille, okay.
So the north.
Lamoille.
Yeah, I was surprised at Lamoille myself. So the northwest corner has proven to be one of the growing areas.
Good.
So. But with that said, it's minimal. It's 1 to 2% growth.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, Tim, why I brought up the education system. When I learned that, I read in the paper actually not long ago, that the state, 4 different entities in the state were going to be working together to develop a new advanced math program because our students are getting to college and they can't do the math work. So why are we, I know this isn't your expertise, but it affects everything in the state when the students are not prepared either to move on to college so that they can get an advanced degree or whatever. It makes me wonder why we spend so much more than the national average. And yet we have students going to college who can't perform in the math arena. Math is important to engineering, you know, and a lot of these industries may need people with those math skills. I know my grandson went to VTC, and this is a cute little story, I have to tell you. He was in high school. Excellent student. He was working at the hospital on weekends, and I remember one Christmas, I said, okay, honey, Christmas dinner will be, I can't be there. I said, why not? He said, they're paying me time and a half at the hospital. That's
that takes
Eric.
priority, yeah.
Yeah, priority. So when he was in high school and excelling, he said, Graham, I'm not going to college. I said, what? No, I don't want to go to college. I said, why? I don't want the debt. I said, Eric, you are way too smart not to go to college. I said, with your work ethic, you will be able to get a great job and you will be able to pay back your loans. Well, okay, I'll go for 2 years. So he got his mechanical engineering degree. They had him tutoring other students. So then at the end of that year, he says, well, maybe I'll go for 2 more years and get my electrical engineering degree. So he's now an electromechanical engineer down in North Carolina, working for an international company, and now he's a manager. So if we can instill in our young people a work ethic, which has to be learned at home, and set high expectations in the schools, because we want productive people in our society. We want good employees for all of these industrial, business in the industrial area here, and job creators and all kinds of people. You know, so we have to have the best education system. I'll get off that now.
Well, I think you bring up a good point when Eric said there's many individuals like him who are afraid of the debt, that it will hinder them. I don't blame them. Yeah, and it will hinder them in the future as when they choose to have a family and whatnot. But at the same time, like BFA St. Albans, I'll use as an example, 20% of their kids have chosen not to go on to college. 20%. So 80% plan to go to college? 80% at BFA have been accepted to college. No kidding. But what happens is when they get their tuition bill in May, that 80% is reduced to, 72%. When they go for a semester and find out it's not for them, because many times they might be pushed into college because that's the end all. But the reality is that there's so many so many other good paying jobs, as you said, electricians, plumbers, mechanical folks, truck driver. I mean, there's payment. I mean, a truck driver can make $80,000 a year now, and it's only going to get more because the demand is that much greater. That's right. There's not enough CDL drivers in the region to accommodate the need at Barry Callebaut, or McDermott, not Barry Callebaut, but the co-op and other entities like that, Valancourts. So the need for the other jobs, as I said, college is not the end all, but post-secondary education comes into play. Some sort of training. But it doesn't have to be college to be successful. I am stunned at the number of huge trucks that come up the highway to Franklin County. Unbelievable. I say, where are all these coming from? Where are they going? I spoke to one driver at Peerless last week during the evening, and he had driven up from, he had a load coming from Florida. Wow. And he was going to get a load at Peerless and take it to Tennessee and then head back down to Florida. So that's tough. And he was a younger guy. No wonder they get paid well. Right. That's not easy. No, it's not easy. That's not easy work. So, okay, so we have big investment
in this area, and you've mentioned the dairy situation, the impact. Now, how many, losing 66 farms, were they all dairy farms, or?
Yeah. As far as, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that's
when
the
you're
case,
talking
yeah.
about the milk situation. Yeah. Are some choosing to diversify, to expand their, their income?
Yeah, no doubt. Some have gone to some goat farming, some have gone to cheese making, some have gone to sugaring. I mean, maple sugaring is
it's
huge.
Big, yeah.
So that can offset. So yeah, many are diversifying. Some, some may just, sell pumpkins. I mean, just to help offset an electric bill or anything along those lines. It's, they're doing what they can to, I've seen some farmers take their manure and compost it and then sell the composting for...
Getting creative, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we need our farms.
No doubt.
They're critical. I know we have some organic farmers, sorry about that, who are, going to the farmers market and selling their goods and so forth. A number of people are preferring organic vegetables and so forth.
No, it's a growing market for sure. It's grass-fed beef, organic beef. The market continues to grow over time for all of those items that you shared. Fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy, cheese, wine and beer. I mean, that the locally owned purchases is growing substantially.
The number of beer establishments in Vermont, new companies, it's wonderful. What's going on with my voice anyway, excuse me.
I was just speaking to Andrea Gagne from 14 Star yesterday, and I asked her, I've always been curious as to what is the impact that all these breweries have on traditional beers, your Budweiser, your Miller, and all that.
Yeah.
And she said that their market share was reduced by 6% last year.
Really?
So
in Vermont or
nationwide,
across the nation?
I believe.
Wow!
So
all these entrepreneurs.
Yeah, the impact is starting to hit home with the larger breweries like Budweiser and whatnot.
I wonder how many beers that have been prevalent in this country are produced in other countries, or is it all American?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, let's see here. So workforce development in the state partially has to do with making sure, greatly actually, to do with the training and the education that our young people get.
Training and education to the sense that they need to be educated about opportunities that are here. They, and I would probably fit the same mold. You come out of high school and you think, you see what's on Main Street, but you don't know what's going on in the industrial parks. You don't know what's going on in the co-op. Unless you take that initiative or someone grabs you by the hand and says, here, let's go for a tour at Ben & Jerry's so you can see what's happening. There's still a strong perception with probably the older generation that manufacturing is still lifting 50-pound bags of feed and stacking it on a pallet. And as you shared, Linda, manufacturing is process engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, electricians, mechanical from a sense of heating and air conditioning, just
really important things.
Computer controls, repairs. It's not just stacking bags on a pallet anymore. It's extensive.
Well, speaking of stacking items on a pallet, or pallets on something else, whatever. Guess what my grandson works with?
robotics.
How did you know?
Ben and Jerry's has it.
Okay.
I think the co-op has it. So a lot of those jobs of stacking has been taken over by robotics. And once again, you can have a robotic doing your palletizing, but someone still has to repair the robotics.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
You have to be knowledgeable about the controls and the logic and the programming and all that. And without that, you're back to stacking pallets by hand.
Exactly. So that's progress, I guess.
Yes, yes.
So you mentioned that Swanton and Enosburg were doing some good things in their communities. Anything in particular?
Well, in Swanton, you have a project where it's all about the Memorial Auditorium in the downtown. So the Memorial Auditorium was being occupied by a strong business in Swanton. It has been for years, called BMTM, and it's owned and operated by Elaine Morissette. And the village owns the building. It was an auditorium, a Memorial Auditorium to recognize the soldiers from World War I and II. And so we're trying to figure out how, and Ace Hardware was interested in utilizing that building and become an anchor tenant to the downtown, just like they did in the same owner, Gordon and Debbie Winters. And they were looking at doing the same thing in Swanton, where they would be an anchor store to draw people downtown and bring some traffic in.
Where's that building? Is it right near the park, at the end of the park?
Right, at the end of the park. It was behind the old Prouty IGA building. So if you remember where Prouty's IGA grocery was, it's north of that.
Okay, so they're going to make that into.
And so what needed to happen was BMTM had to find a new home, because the village was going to work with Ace Hardware to turn it into a like I said, an anchor store.
So Gordon was going to just help with the process?
No, Gordon was interested in owning the building.
I see.
And turning it into an Ace Hardware store. But there was, once again, it goes back to no vacant space relative to move. So BMTM was occupying 15,000 square feet, and there was no place for them to move to. We were fortunate enough to have Dave Fosgate, who owns a number of buildings in Swanton, step forward and negotiate building a new building, 18,000 square feet, where, so there's a number of people involved in that. FCIDC was involved, the village was involved, the town was involved, Ace Hardware was involved, BMTM and Dave Fosgate. So Dave is building an 18,000 square foot building, which will allow BMTM to move into that building. It's a modern, it'll be a modern building. BMTM will be much more efficient. And it allows Gordon to go into the Memorial Auditorium and create an Ace Hardware and hopefully start some activity in the Swanton.
To revitalize the downtown. Now, what is BMTM?
They are what's called a pick and pack operation. So they have a number of products that they are the products shippers. So let's say, I don't know this for a fact, but they might have a whole line of Nike shoes. And when a customer needs 10 pairs of Nike shoes, they send the order to BMTM, they package it all up, and they ship it off to the customer.
I see.
So it eliminates that worry for a company to handle the picking and the packing of their products. So
I never heard that term, picking and packing.
Yeah, so it just frees them up, and BMTM takes the responsibility of getting the product to the customer.
Okay. And Enosburg, around the park area or elsewhere?
Well, the Quincy Hotel, which is just two lots down from the...
What's going to happen with that?
It's been renovated. If you haven't been by, I would encourage you. Yeah, it's it's hotel with some apartments upstairs. It's all been painted outside. It's been totally renovated inside, and it's going to be a showpiece for the village.
How recently?
It's still ongoing. The renovations are still ongoing. But if you were to drive by the exterior is done.
Okay.
So, and it's beautifully painted, and
I lived in Enosburg for 15 years when I was first married, so I know right where that is.
If you get a chance, I would encourage you to check it out.
Okay.
So the other thing, I'm not sure the date of this, but I should have checked before I came on, but Enosburg has what's going to call a porch party, I guess. So throughout town, people will be selling food items and other crafts and whatnot on different porches. And you'll
of their homes?
Of their homes and the Quincy Hotel and, businesses. And so you can walk around town and just...
Porch party.
Porch party.
That's a new one.
Yeah, it is a new one. And
good idea.
I think that's coming up. And they just had their Harvest Fest, which was 60 vendors, well-attended in the park. There's a volunteer group that's been very active. They came together to paint the Masonic Temple, clean that up substantially. So once again, a lot of
facelifts,
a lot of energy, a lot of interested citizens that may not have been as active in the past.
Good. We need to get more people involved in our communities, and it's kind of exciting to know that St. Albans was kind of a leader in facelifting and modernizing, whatever. Yeah.
No, as I shared with you earlier, we did a panel presentation yesterday down at Castleton. There was the Council on Rural Development did a leadership summit. 525 people attended. And basically it was an initiative to try to engage individuals who may not have really jumped in with 2 feet to be a leader in their communities, trying to give them tips, trying to educate them, trying to mentor them, if you will, try to make introductions that, if they choose to be on the planning board or school board or rec commission or they want to do a special event. These were some panel discussions and workshops where they could hopefully take home some skills and have an impact on their communities.
And you feel, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, because as we know, there's many times it's the same people doing the same things.
Amen.
And it's time for to grow a new generation of leaders.
Yes, and build confidence by giving them information and guidance.
Right.
So good, a lot of good things.
Yeah, that was probably the participation was much greater than anyone had foreseen on that. I'm not sure what the plans are relative to a yearly one or not, but there was 45 people on the waiting list.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a huge success.
Where was this again?
It was down at Castleton University.
Castleton.
Yep.
University,
yes. Hadley.
Now, this question that just occurred to me might be a difficult one to answer, but I got to thinking of all of the businesses in the industrial development area. What's it called? Industrial Development Park.
Yeah, in the industrial park. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously there's a lot of industrial work that goes on there, manufacturing and so forth. So where does their waste go?
Well, I know there's a company called Technor Apex, and they make plastic pellets. That's basically all they do, plastic or rubber pellets. And those pellets are then shipped off to another company to make a final product. So the best example of that is they would make, they're called Gaylords. They're large boxes about as big as this table, and they ship off these small pellets that are about the size of a BB. They fill these boxes up with these pellets in a very specific color. So the best example I give people is, do you remember when the Live Strong bracelets, the yellow Live Strong bracelets were very popular? These pellets would be shipped off to that bracelet manufacturer. So they take the pellets, they mold them into the bracelets, and then the bracelets would be sold.
So
or
they do
given out.
melt them or something?
Yeah, yeah, for that use. Another use of the pellets is when you have a rubber grip on your toothpaste, or your toothbrush, or a pen. Those pellets are utilized for that as well.
That's interesting.
But they have 99% recycled waste. So only 1%.
From all the companies?
From that Techno or Apex.
Okay.
But all the other companies, Ben & Jerry's is very conscientious about what their carbon footprint is, what their waste is. So a lot of stuff is, they are better off if it's reused. Peerless Clothing, they save all their plastic, they bundle it, they sell it.
They make clothing, right? Or they
ship clothing out of.
Ship clothing, they don't make it.
They don't make it. It's made overseas or in Montreal.
Okay.
But they do have cardboard, they have plastic, it's like dry cleaner bags, and they will bundle that and sell it off for recycling as well.
Okay, so their Peerless is basically a go-between for shipping for...
Peerless is a distributor. Well, in St. Albans, they're a distributor. They have their product manufactured in China, Vietnam, and Mexico, and Montreal. They receive it into St. Albans, and it's all men's suits and overcoats. And those products are then shipped off to the Macy's of the world, Kohl's, Men's Warehouse, Burlington Coat. So they get shipped off to those entities for retail.
Around the country or
all
around the world?
North America, yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. Well, I didn't realize that. You learned...
Their building will hold, I think we're going to be up to 2.8 million suits in their buildings down in the industrial park.
At one time?
One time.
Holy mackerel. Yeah. Well, we need to get more young people wearing suits.
That's right, yeah.
Every time I see a man on the street or in the Traveled Cup or wherever they might be in town, and the bank, whatever, and I see them wearing a nice suit and a tie, I go right up to them and I tap them on the shoulder and I say, "It's so nice to see a man in a suit."
I apologize for not wearing one
no,
tonight.
you look fine. Look at me. I'm just casual, too. No. But
I know.
I'm talking about in general.
Yes.
You know, when I was growing up, you saw a lot of... My father wore a suit to work every day.
Yeah, no, and that's a question my board has, and many people have, is who are actually purchasing these suits where you can sell millions of suits in a given year. I mean...
they must be wearing them somewhere.
Someone is wearing suits. They did say that when George W. Bush was president, because he seemed to have, like, if you were to compare how much he wore a suit to maybe Barack Obama, George W. Bush probably wore a suit much more than Barack Obama did. And during that time frame, the sales really increased because of that influence. The example
Sure.
and the influence that the president had.
And also, when I look at my yearbooks from junior high, because we graduated from 9th grade in our town, and then we went to another town, because we didn't have a high school. We went through 9th grade and then off to another town for high school. And I look at what we wore. We wore dresses,
Right.
skirts and blouses. You don't see much of that today.
Not much,
no.
You know, and I'm probably guilty. I mean, when I got this job 18 years ago, I went and bought, I think I have 5 suits, and I still wear the same 5 suits. You know,
there's nothing wrong with that. That's 5 suits.
I haven't outgrown anything, so I haven't needed to go buy another suit. So
exactly, they don't. I mean, it takes a long time to wear out a suit. Let's face it. Okay, let's see. Well, I have to say that I am so pleased with the paving in St. Albans, the road improvement, and why can't I think of his name? One of the employees, he's a really great guy in the town. I went to him one time about, he's going to shoot me if he watches the show. A curly, kind of dark curly hair.
Alan Robtoy?
No.
Marty Manahan?
Marty.
Yeah, Marty.
Marty. Sorry, Marty. I'm getting old. But I went to him and others about the overhead sign that was so faded at the interstate down on southern
oh, yeah, right, I know.
part of Route 7.
The directional sign that went up the interstate,
Yeah. And
I agree with you.
My brother and sister-in-law, who are here now, every year my brother would say, that sign still is there? What are they thinking? Yeah. So I would go into the town for 3 years in a row or whatever, the city hall, and ask the question of one of the guys there. And so once it was changed, relatively recently, I ran into Marty and he says, we listened to you, Linda. I said, yeah, right.
I think the ironic piece about that whole thing is, remember, it's probably been 5 years. Do you remember when we were, not we, but I think it was more the federal government came in and changed out all the signs on the interstate? Do you remember that?
No.
They took every sign at every exit and took them down, and many of them were perfectly good signs.
Those kinds of signs?
Yeah, the large exit signs. And they replaced them all at $7 million or whatever the cost was.
Oh my goodness.
And many of them were perfectly fine, yet we had the example you used that was up for years. But I'll put my mayor hat on for a little while.
Please do.
And I would say I think Marty is indicative of what I have found. Alan Robtoy, Marty, Chip Sawyer, Chief Taylor, Dominic Cloud, Kristen Smith, Kelly B. I mean, the list goes on of all the employees that are so responsive to concerns that citizens have. And I'm not saying that wasn't in the past, but I think we have a homegrown management team that is very responsive to issues. So as mayor, I tell people all the time that I put in less hours as mayor. Because of them? Because of them. So I get an issue, someone shares an issue, a concern, a complaint, I pass it on to the respected parties, and it's usually taken care of the next day. And it's just a great feeling that the city can be so responsive, and the residents of St. Albans are so appreciative of that. Yes, indeed. And now I have another request. And that is, and I don't know if there's anything you can do about this, but I'd like to think that there's a solution. When we get a big rain, and I'm driving along through the town, or the city, excuse me, and on the right-hand side as I'm heading into the community, all these big puddles of water, and I mean, they're deep. No, you're right. And I'm wondering, what could be a solution? Does somebody have to dig down and make a reservoir, or are the environmentalists against that because they think the water will go from the street into the lake, and then you get what's the holdup there? I don't know the exact answer. I guess my interpretation is that I think when we did the paving down Main Street, that we could have sloped things a little bit more towards catch basins. I think what you're talking about is at the bottom of Upper Weldon. There are three specific locations. Bottom of Diamond, the bottom of Upper Weldon, and even I think over in the bottom of Upper Newton Road. And I'm not sure, I'll probably get myself in trouble here, but I'm not sure how much consideration was given towards the proper slope to have that water run to catch basins so that it would be funneled off the city, off the streets. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. Well, it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. But I think that's where we probably missed the boat on that one. I can't believe that whoever designed that, wasn't thinking of that. Well, it was a V-Trans project. That's a state project going through, and oh, it is. Yeah. That wasn't a St. Albans project. That's a V-Trans project. So I don't think you have that connectivity to citizens when they do a project. I don't think they don't think there was any public hearings.
I
held
wouldn't
on
let
it.
him know.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
You can believe that.
So the other stuff, in terms of the mayor piece, I don't know if I finished my point, but so I probably put in about, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 hours a week as mayor.
Well, it's an unpaid position.
Unpaid position. And there are select board members in Sheldon, in Berkshire, and Franklin, and Bakersfield that put in many more hours than I ever do. And probably the 2 reasons for that is St. Albans has the luxury of having a staff, having a good staff, and Bakersfield or Sheldon is dependent on a road crew, but still, for decisions to be made, those same select board members have to go, if there's a plug culvert or there's a down tree or there's a fence down, they need to go out and check it out.
Sure.
Make the recommendation to the full board, make a decision. So they're spending much more time on items that I don't encounter on a regular basis.
Sure. Well, I have to say, Dave Southwick was very nice.
That's right.
I'm
going to get shot for not.
No, because I love Dave.
But Dave does a wonderful
He's
job.
He's a sweetheart.
Yes,
and such a nice guy. A friend of mine was having a concern, and she was worried, and she needed some support, and she asked me if I would go with her. And I said, sure. And then I found out it was Dave that we were going to meet with. And I said, oh, you're going to love him. He'll help you. And he did.
Yes.
Just a great...
I don't think the staff is top-notch. Obviously, we lost Alan Robtoy after 42 years in public works. And Alan was someone who looked upon a challenge of a resident who may not have been happy over some issue, and his challenge was when he left to make sure they were happy, and the problem was taken care of to their.
That's problem solving.
Yeah. No, he did. He was wonderful.
Community service. What do I want to say? Community service, but also good
servant.
Public servant. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Okay,
You have.
Here we go. About 8 minutes.
About 8 minutes or so.
So I told you time would fly, Linda.
It does.
So this is probably a mesh between my mayor position and Franklin County Industrial Development, but and I'm not taking credit for this. I just want to state a situation that Franklin County Industrial Development has worked with some colleagues that we have over the border. We have a close relationship with a lady at St. John's sur Richelieu and one in Cowansville. And we have come together over the last 2 years to create a cross-border map, and I'm not sure if you've seen it.
No.
But it's available at the Chamber and other businesses around. But basically, if you stopped at the rest areas and you picked up a map, the map would usually take you up to the border of Canada and then stop. So you had no clue as to...
Oh, I see.
And then vice versa, if you're coming down to Vermont, you picked up a map, it'd probably stop at the Canadian border. What our collaboration did was we produced a map that had Franklin Grand Isle counties, Brome-Missisquoi, which is Cowansville and Bedford area, and then St. John's sur Richelieu. Excuse me. And we have activities on it. We have destinations. What happens a lot of times is we don't know what's going on just over the border, which is closer to us than Burlington. So we focus on what activities they have, like we had the Dairy Days and the car shows and the Maple Festival. So we had that
all
listed,
on there.
And many others. And vice versa, they had the same. So we could see the St. John Balloon Festival, the agricultural fair in Bedford. I mean, all that stuff were on there. And we had destinations such as covered bridges, the marina,
sites,
the state parks, all that stuff, Missisquoi Wildlife Refuge. So we produced 30,000 with the help of a grant.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've been distributed.
I have to see that.
Yeah, it turned out nice. So my point being is that we have made a conscious decision to market the area more as a region than just St. Albans or Franklin County.
And quite a few Canadians, I hear French being spoken fairly often. around here.
So if someone were to come to town, we'll use your brother and sister-in-law, for example, that after being in St. Albans for 2 or 3 days, they could take this map and go visit the vineyards up in southern Quebec. They could go to St. Jean-sur-Richelieu. So
today, to get across the border, you need a passport?
Passport, or if you're a Vermont resident, an enhanced driver's license.
I have one of those.
So you would not need a passport to do that.
Oh, okay. That's good. I haven't been to Canada in years.
I would encourage you to. I mean,
I like Place des Arts in Montreal.
So we're promoting it as a region, not just so as I was saying with your brother.
That's a good idea.
He's in here for 5 days, and he and his wife choose to.
Next time they come, maybe we'll do that.
Share the map. So to that point, we have found this summer that St. Albans was a much bigger tourist destination. And as mayor, so my real job, my office is on Main Street. I'm walking between the city hall, the bank, the post office quite often during the summer, and I would see many tourists, and I would stop and introduce myself as mayor.
Wonderful.
And ask them where they're from, and it was amazing to see the wide-reaching homes from which they came. Mm-hmm. Los Angeles, Cleveland, Indianapolis, New Jersey, Florida, obviously. So it was very interesting to see that, and it's. I think most of the shop, or all the shop owners on Main Street, attested to the same thing, that they had more tourists, out of area people in their shops than they have seen before.
That's great. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, we didn't mention the hotel. How is that faring?
So the numbers that I've heard, so the hotel was built with the expectation that it would be full 2/3 of the time. So every night, on average, it would be 67% occupancy. And so it's been open for about 1.5 years now, maybe not quite that year, and 4 months. They've been 85% capacity.
Wow!
Sold out many a nights.
How many rooms there?
84.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So those people are walking on Main Street. You know, they're visiting the Twigs and Jess.
Absolutely.
And all that. The other piece of it is Maureen Brown, the manager, shared with our board. She's on our board. She shared with the board that there's 1,300 Hampton Inns. They received a service award for all of them for being the 15th ranked Hampton Inn out of 1,300.
Fantastic.
And cleanliness was 13th.
Oh, I'm excited.
And cleanliness, they got the 13th.
Really?
13th.
Good
position.
for us.
Yeah. No, we're strong. I talked about being strong and switching places with other rural counties. Mm-hmm. We're strong because of all those small pieces.
It all comes together.
It all comes together.
And they all need attention and you know.
Yeah, the hotel's key, manufacturing's key, restaurants are key, Walmart's key.
Sure. Absolutely.
The team at City Hall is key. Access to destinations, state parks, whatever the case is. Yeah. All that comes into play.
Walmart's a busy place. I'm so glad we have it. Well, we're down to the last minute, my friend.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much, Tim. Tim Smith, Mayor of St. Albans, and Executive Director of the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation. I got it all out.
Right, yes, you did.
So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Linda.
Appreciate your work and all the improvements that are going on, and we're very fortunate.
We're very fortunate.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
And I hope you'll come on again sometime.
We'd be glad to do that.
Thanks. Folks, good night. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And next week, I have another great guest, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. You have to tune in to find out. Take care and have a great week ahead. Good night.